G'day folks, Adam Simmons here. I just wanted to shoot this video just to give you a bit of a background on my story and where I've come from, just so we can relate a bit more and you might find the story helpful. So basically, I've always been interested in real estate. So for quite a long time, since probably the age of 17, 18, I've been interested in real estate. But it wasn't until probably about 18 months ago now where I had a bit of a shift in the way I thought about investing in real estate. And my values changed, I suppose you could say. And I no longer wanted to just invest to make a profit. It was more about finding a solution. I could see a problem in the market, and the problem was affordability and working so much just to have a roof over your head. And I didn't think that that was a sustainable model and something that we can continue on with, 10, 20, 50 years down the track. So my mission was to find something which would sort of be a solution to that problem. I didn't know what it would be. I didn't even know if it would be in real estate or anything to do with it at all. But one day I was on the internet, as you do, on Google, searching around, and I came across this picture of a tiny house. And at first I didn't really know what it was. It just looked like a small little house to me, but it caught my attention. I was interested, so I kept on looking, and I used things like Pinterest and just doing Google searches and looking at things. And these things kept coming up, and I'd read articles on it, and I looked into it a little bit more, and I could see that there was a big movement in the US, the tiny house movement over there, and it looked interesting. I was very interested. So as I kept looking at these different articles and different pictures and that, I decided in my own mind that I wanted to build one of these things one day. I hadn't yet told my missus at the time, so I just sort of kept it to myself, and kept on saving pictures and researching different ways to build it and things like that. And then eventually, probably about maybe 3 months after I first sort of discovered the idea, I made a mention of it to my wife at the time, and she she was not very impressed. She took one look at the photo and said, "Yeah, no, that's not for me." So I sort of felt a bit deflated, and I sort of went back to the drawing board and thought about how I could approach it differently to bring her on board. So I kept on, I tried to find the most luxurious, beautiful photos I could find of a tiny house that she might like more than the first one I showed her. And I came across a couple of documentaries as well. You may have seen them. There's a couple of big documentaries in the US on tiny houses. And I showed them to her, and that started to help break down that barrier that it was that it wasn't a caravan, it wasn't some little box, it could actually be a nice livable space. And it took about 6 months, but eventually she came around, and she was on board. And once I got the I'm on board, so to speak, things really took shape really quickly. So I already had a heap of images and things I'd already collected of things I liked and what I wanted to put in my own tiny house. So I used all those, I got some drawings done, and then things really started to take shape. I started early in the year. It was actually 2016, in around January, February time. Got the trailer delivered, and then it only really took about 9 months to get the build done. Now keep in mind, I know a lot of people say that they don't really have the time or the resources to do this. I was working almost full-time at the time, so as well as working, I was then building the tiny house on the weekends, and it took me 9 months, mostly by myself. I had help from my brother and my dad and a couple of mates at times, but mostly by myself. So 9 months, and I'm not a qualified builder or anything like that. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. I've got no special skills. I've learned as I went along, asked questions, that sort of thing. So yeah, 9 months to sort of get it built, and now we've been living in it I've been living in the tiny house now for about 2 months, and we're loving it. So that's a little bit about my story. I just wanted to also cover a couple of things. I quite often get the whole the comment about land and having land to park your tiny house, and it's a very valid point. That's the whole purpose of tinyrealestate.com.au, is to obviously have people list their land on there so that tiny houses can go on there and find land to park their tiny house. Because it's so new though, that hasn't eventuated as yet. There's one or two on there at the moment. People with their land up for sale. I mean, up for rent, sorry. But it's not on a wide scale yet. But what I would say on that is it's easier than what you think. I'll explain my experience just quickly to you so you can see how I approached it. My wife and I jumped on Airbnb. It was her idea. It was a fantastic idea. And we searched for properties that were in the location that we wanted to live in. So we made a short list of about 12 properties initially. We then put together a letter which basically just told our story, had some photos, and was just an introduction to what we wanted to do and asking if they'd be open to it. And out of those 12, we heard back from about 6 people who were interested in speaking to us more. We met up with 2 of them, and from those 2, we found a property. It only took us maybe 2 months maximum, and that was very casual, back and forth. And then we had a property to park our tiny house. It was very, very easy. So I definitely recommend that as a way to go. Jump on Airbnb.com. Search in the location you're looking for and contact some people. Just ask the question. Now, we didn't do that until the house was nearly done, so it helped because we had all the planning done. We sort of knew what the house was going to be like. We knew how it was going to work, what we were going to do with grey water and power and those things. But once you get to that point, when say you're halfway through the build, it's probably a good time to sort of get in contact and find some land. And it's a lot easier than what you think. So don't see that as a major obstacle. There's always someone out there who's looking to earn an extra $50 or $100 a week for letting you park your tiny house on their land. Absolutely. The other thing's money. I know that's obviously a big hurdle with a tiny house. You need to have the money to be able to build it, obviously. But it's not a bigger hurdle as what people think. I had no money when I started, and you know, we've got a completed tiny house and we've done it in a very short period of time. And I wasn't working in a job where I was earning 6 figures or anything like that. So there's many ways to approach it. Obviously, savings is the best way to do it. But if you want to get started quickly, like we did, we simply went to the bank and got a personal loan. We worked it out, and it was going to be far cheaper to have a personal loan for a short period of time than what it was renting or getting a traditional mortgage for $500,000. So, you know, it's definitely an option, and it's easier than what you think. So don't make that the barrier to going and taking action and getting started. And the last thing, which I've already sort of touched on, is experience. I had no experience in house building when I got started, and I'm sure most of you haven't been a builder before. So don't let that be a hurdle. I'm trying to put out as much helpful content on the blog and on YouTube as I can to try and help you. And there's plenty of people out there who are builders anyway. You can always call your local builder and get him to come around and help you out if you get stuck. So you only live life once, give it a go. And I really hope you found that helpful, guys. Let me know, leave some comments below, and I'll speak to you next time.